Mwananchi, tabia zako ziko chini, unapenda kulipa hongo na kutumia njia za uongo, una mipango na hata watoto wa kando haujui.
So I was saying that this particular project was born out of thinking about that issue of who are heroines, who are heroes, all right? And how do you decide? How do you draw, the criteria? And as you know, it was also directed to young people, in the universities. So, Power 254 will go to a particular university and have these photographs, the exhibition of Kenyan heroes and heroines, and let people debate why is Mektilili there, why is Kagia there, why is Vidyati, from the media, what about Kipchoge Keino, why is he there? And it always those very good debates, because you're looking at an individual and you are saying why that individual, deserves to be a hero. But the conceptual framework that we use, we borrowed from Ngugi wa Thiong'o, all right? And Ngugi was discussing this issue of heroines and heroes, and he said the best way to do it is to build a trajectory, all right? You look at the person's entire history, all right? And then within that trajectory, you see whether these people, their political and ideological positions were progressive and activists and in the national interest. And then you move on and they use that trajectory to discuss Jomo Kenyatta's heroism. And so he starts with Kenyatta, who is working with the Kikuyu Central Association, writing notes for them. This is a great movement by the Kikuyu people that is fighting for land. And unfortunately, they were also saying that they didn't want the British to stop female genital parts. That was the negative aspect of it, all right? But there was land, there was issue of freedom, and Jomo Kenyatta was part of that, and he was sent to the UK to continue the struggle there. And once in UK, he became a Pan-Africanist, as we all know. He attended the 1945 Pan-African Conference with Akina Nkrumah and other people. So they were part of these great Africans who are fighting for independence and, against, colonialism. So he traces him to 1946 when he comes back from the UK and joins what was then called the Kenya African Union, right? But then Mau Mau happens, and he takes that trajectory to show that Kenyatta was not in the Mau Mau, Liberation Army or the Mau Mau War. He didn't support it, and he gives the evidence to show that he didn't support it, and he is falsely charged by the British with managing the Mau Mau. Everybody knew he wasn't. If you read the book by Bildad Kagia, it's clear that he wasn't in the Central Committee, and that at some point he was called by the Central Committee to be warned that if he didn't stop attacking Mau Mau, he'll be killed, right? So that is also is documented. And so he then goes to the Kapenguria trial, all right, where Kenyatta is charged. And Kenyatta, in the Kapenguria trial, he takes a very patriotic position, very nationalistic position in condemning colonialism, in defending people cultures and seeking independence and so forth. In that trial, which was not a trial, it was just the British punishing those guys. They didn't have the evidence. There was evidence of Dawson Macharia, which was recanted later. But you see, in that trajectory, there is progression and regression, right? It's progression and regression.
Yeah.
Then he's out of prison. He gets involved in politics. He's the leader of KANU, and Kenya becomes independent. He is the first prime minister and becomes the first president. All right, and that's another trajectory that is used to judge him. And that trajectory is really a trajectory that denies him that tag of a hero, right? Because of what he does, he does in the issues of the constitution, dismantling it, in issues of political assassinations. The government abolishes the opposition, and by the time he dies, all of us used to call Kenyatta Kamaliza. Because his government had killed Mboya, had killed JM, and the Mau Mau. You remember also the same government flushed the remaining Mau Mau fighters from the forest, and there were some generals who were also killed, right?
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, Ngugi says, if we are taking a joy now, and we want to basically use that criteria, right? We just have to use that trajectory. Sometimes people change. They start off. The example I give is the religious example of Saul, right? Who becomes Paul. Okay, in that trajectory, obviously Saul, in terms of religious scripts, he wasn't a hero, all right? He wasn't a follower of Christ. So if you are using Christ as the ultimate hero, all right, there's a trajectory where Saul was not, all right? Yeah. But then on the road to Damascus, it becomes Paul. And that trajectory is very, very, very glorified in Christianity, right? Okay, that because it's how Christianity, develops and so forth. So that conceptual framework of Ngugi is it's just a framework that we can use and critique, all right? Because my question, or my critique of that trajectory is that isn't it possible to look at that trajectory and see whether there was, where there was a regression, there was a reason for it, right? Okay. And don't we have people who have a consistency in the trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Like if you take Mekitilili, right? The Giriama woman who fought the British, and she was deported up country, I think to Kisi and other places, and then she managed to go back and still fight. Our history shows a history of activism and revolution throughout. Okay, so there are people who are lucky like that, who they stay as heroes within the trajectory. They don't come out of it. All right, there is no regression. And I think the same thing you can say of Dedan Kimathi. All right, because he died, fighting. He never betrayed the cause. All right. but he was consistent and he died. But we don't know whether if Kimathi had become president of Kenya, whether he would have turned out to be like Kenyatta, for example.
Yeah.
You know, or from like the current leadership and so forth, right?
Mm.
So consistency is another criterion we can use, okay? And those like Kimathi, Mektilili, Pinto, Kagia, and Jaramogi Odinga tend to qualify that criterion, because if you look at Odinga, yes, it's true, he had some weaknesses and so forth, but Odinga remained the people's president, the people's leader of the opposition throughout.
Mm.
He never, when you look at his trajectory, okay, when you read his book, Not Yet Uhuru, you realize that his vision, was consistent throughout. He faced situations where he could have, people could basically say, oh, he made mistakes and whatever. All human beings make mistakes. But if you look at the broad vision of Jaramogi or Kagia or J.M. Kariuki, Pinto, okay? These are people who are in government, but when push came to shove, they were able to say, my position is this on land, my position is this on the country. So the main thing is that we have to keep thinking through this issue of heroes and heroines, because it's very political, fundamentally it's political, because our society has classes, right?
Yeah.
So when people are given awards, by president, the criteria is different, okay? It's very different because they have their own class criteria. So what we're saying is that as a nation, we should debate what is a national criterion on heroism, courage, the heroes and whatnot, because there's still a dispute. There's, there's still a dispute when the Githeri man is given an award because of just one event, all right?
Yeah, yeah.
And probably creates a lot of debate around that, all right? So classes have their own heroes, and I think that's what we have to realize, that you have your own heroine. A lot of young people, you remember, whenever we ask them who their heroines were or heroes, they would ordinarily invariably talk about their parents or particularly their mothers. Okay, and then you can ask them why, and they'll give you, the reasons. It's just like the whole notion of role models. When you ask why is so-and-so your role model, you have to explain why. But I think the Ngugi conceptual framework that he has given us is good. We have to keep on critiquing it. We can add the issues of consistency. We look at the trajectory and see whether the regressions are unforgivable and they disqualify you from being a hero or a heroine. But we have to realize that human beings have weaknesses, right? And it's the question of how they betray the cause that becomes important. And we look for heroes and the heroines for more sectors, right? I think in the exhibition, I like that that approach, because you can go to the sporting area and you see Joginder Singh, you see Shekhar Mehta, then you see sports persons like Kipchoge Keino, you know, who is famous. Now there is another Eliud Kipchoge, who is also famous. Great footballers. But those are the people who history does not really glorify, all right? For example, in sports, there are two people who have done a lot of work on sports. One is a guy called Gashui, who has written as a book called Kickoff. It takes you through the Kenyan football, all right? Who the players were when they won the East African Challenge Cup and so forth, right? And then there is another woman, a Kalenjin woman. I don't know why I'm forgetting her name. She's done fantastic work on athletics. Okay, also documenting and chronicling our sports men and women. Okay. So basically, they have to come from different fields. But I think the the way the state does it sometimes is it's the criteria is as clear as mud. It's not well thought out. Like I have when I became Chief Justice, I was awarded Elder of the Golden Heart. Now that award is military. Okay. Most of the awards that are given, in this country are military awards. Initially, they were meant for the military. And when I was given mine, actually, it was bestowed on me by General Karangi, while the commander-in-chief watched. So it's a gold thing. It's very beautiful. It's very heavy. And so, I haven't taken it to a jeweler to know how much it's worth. because you can only wear it on occasion. It's kind of, it's heavy, and there is a sash, and there is a small, icon that you can use. But everybody knows that the criteria there was military. People who get killed during the war, they would be honored, after death. And those are military titles. And Knight Commander of St. Michael and St. George, which is the British one, Order of the British Empire. There are quite a number, but Kenya just came up with this Elder of the Golden Heart, First Class, Elder of I don't know what, Burning Spear, Moran. There wasn't much thinking about it. And I think it ought to be thought through so that the criteria is not just decided by the leaders.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In fact, I think that is a very good example of an area of the Constitution that can be debated. Right? Yeah, because it wasn't debated properly. And, so Power 254 will be saying this issue needs a national debate, all right?
Yeah.
And the people can come up with the criteria. It's very conflictual because the peasants will have their heroes, the workers. I doubt if workers look at Atwoli as their hero now. I don't think so. So anyway, so that's the basis of it. That's what we were doing, most of the time. And I think the last thing that you asked me is, who are my heroines and heroes and why? you remember we also said that this debate should be kept within the confines of people who died, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you talk about people who are alive, it's very problematic because they are still in the trajectory, and you might call them a hero, heroine today, and then they do all manner of things. Okay, after that, so that's why we focused on people who are passed on, because you know, that is less controversial, you know. So obviously, my heroines and the heroes are people who are not alive. All right.
Okay.
And there are few of those that were, you know, in the exhibition. Definitely Mek Tilili, definitely Mary Najiru, who was killed in 1922 at the University of Nairobi when Alice Ruko was in custody. I'm just starting with women, right?
Yeah.
Within the Mau Mau, there were women generals that were also my heroines. And if you read that book by Elkins, the British Gulag, right? There are stories of those women, okay? Wangari Maathai, you know, definitely, you know, my heroine. You know, if I go back to men, Kimathi, Pio Gama Pinto, Kagia, who I knew very well, you know, it will always be my my hero. Jaramogi Odinga is somebody that as I've said, I've always regarded as my political father, really. You know, when this country was under very, very harsh dictatorship of Kanu and Moi, Jaramogi Odinga was a one-man opposition. Is the one who, during that dark, you know, a period, was able to stand up and criticize Moi and the Kanu dictatorship, because there was nothing they could do for him. They had detained him, they had put him under house arrest. They knew that if they killed him, there would be a lot of problems. So he was the only person. I remember once when you know, he was somewhere in Bondo, and you know, he had this shrill voice, Moi. And he told Moi, you know, you don't have a title deed to this country. And those of us who are in the university, you know, in the struggle, we were so, you know, encouraged.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, you have, you know, Kagia he resisted the Jomo Kenyatta dictatorship, you know, and you know what that means when you come from the community that is ruling and or from the barons that are ruling. So, and they could be, you know, they could be more, you know. I'm sure I can dig up, you know, some more people, but those are the examples that I think these women and men who like Pinto is amazing, and there's a book on him, and there are other you know, South Asian Africans, what we call the Indians. There were many. If you read that magazine called Awaz,
yeah,
you find they were within East Africa, they were there fighting for independence. I forgot to mention, of course, apart from Pinto, there's Makan Singh, who is my hero, the trade union who also became, part of the, the Mau Mau. Is the first person in this country, I think in 1946, who demanded independence. Talked about independence before anybody else, talked about it. So it's a multiracial. I could have mentioned from the Kalenjin, just to make sure that everybody is included. The great hero, the Nandi hero, who is called Samoi Koitalel. Yeah. From my own community, a guy called, there's Chokimau, I think.
Yeah.
Chokimau, she was a prophetess. But our prophecies were anti-colonial. Okay? When she's warning people that there's a big snake that she can see, a big snake from Mombasa to Lake Victoria, and that was the railway, right? That she could see people with the different colors who have fire in their pockets, British and their matchboxes. And she could see people who will come and kill people, the Kambas call it mukunauku, because of the gun. The gun is wooden and then you hit it and then it obviously makes that it spits fire, right? So Mwindi Mbingu was a trade union, a unionist as well. Within my community, that's there are other people might ask me why not Ngei. I can always explain why I don't think it's my hero. That's why there are these debates, although it was in Kapenguria. But those ones, definitely, the ones I've mentioned, there are people also from other communities, the Titans and whatnot, which you could actually, dig up. Yeah, that's it then.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been a super informative session. You have a lovely day. We'll share with you the links once they're uploaded, and then
yes, and I'll share them on Twitter, I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mwananchi, tabia zako ziko chini, unapenda kulipa hongo na kutumia njia za uongo, una mipango na hata watu